Hi, everybody. Old guy here, and look what we've got today. Oh, my goodness. Is that not a magnificent cover? The Three of Swords, Fritz Leiber. Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser, names that stride alongside every other sword and sorcery legend from the Hyborian Age.
Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of their women.
Or the lands of Cimmeria, like Conan, Kull, Red Sonja.
Do you want to live forever?
And Bilbo.
You shall be the fellowship of the Lord of the Rings.
Well, maybe Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser aren't of quite the same stature or ilk or, status of those guys, because the barbarian sword slingers were generally on a heroic quest or two and carving out kingdoms. While Fafhrd and the Mouser are pretty much out for themselves.
Infidel!
Thieving and plundering and making life miserable for the various merchants and thieves guild members in the city of Lankhmar, which is basically Pittsburgh on a bad night.
One does not simply walk into Mordor.
In a way, they seem more modern than the swashbucklers of the 1930s, although Leiber wrote during that time period. In fact, his first Fafhrd Mouser story was published in 1939. It was called Two Sought Adventure, later renamed The Jewels of the Forest, and is the second story of the Swords Against Death collection, which is in here. Adept's Gambit, the last story listed in this anthology, was actually the second Fafhrd Mouser story, appearing in 1947, but written in 1936, which doesn't make sense. The events of the story Adept's Gambit happens at the end of several years' worth of travel and adventure by the two all over the world of Nehwon, which is no-win backwards, which is like Erewhon backwards. So Leiber already had the entire story arc in his mind when he wrote the very first stories. Nice. Means he could produce story after story and keep the continuity of it because he already knew where he was going. This is the first set of the Fafhrd Mouser stories, 20 in all, compiled from 3 previous collections called Swords and Deviltry, Swords Against Death, and Swords in the Mist, which was, they were all published from 1968 through 1970, bringing together stories that were published in various magazines like Fantastic and Fantasy and Science Fiction from 1947 to 1970. One story, Their Mistress the Sea, which is in here, was written exclusively for the Swords in the Mist collection. Swords and Deviltry is the republishing of a previous Leiber collection called Two Sought Adventure in 1957 by Gnome Press. Got all that? The Three of Swords here was published by the Science Fiction Book Club, this book, in 1989, which also published the subsequent collections, Swords Against Wizardry, The Swords of Lankhmar, and Swords and Ice Magic, under the title Swords Master, also in 1989.
Yeah, how about that?
So, everybody pretty much knows who these guys are. Fafhrd is a northern barbarian growing up in an icebound land under matriarchal rule of the Snow Clan, the women having a collective ability to cast spells and curses on anyone who displeases them. Like Fafhrd's love interest Vlana, an actress, quotes, with a traveling show that has accompanied the yearly caravan of traders coming north for the furs the Snow Clan have collected from the snow snakes, which, yes, have fur. It's nothing personal. The Snow Clan women take a dim view of all foreign trollops like Vlanna and seek her death. Farfod flees the north with her, abandoning his tribe to seek adventure in the southern lands and its biggest city, Lankhmar. Now, that is the first story of the collection, called The Snow Women. The Grey Mouser is a sorcerer's apprentice, sharing duties with the daughter of the local duke, whose name is Ivrian, and who studies magic in secret because her father takes a dim view of it. So dim a view that one day he kills the sorcerer and ends up imprisoning the Mouser and begins torturing him to death.
What? We'll call it a draw.
The Mouser uses black magic to break free, kills the Duke, and escapes with Ivrian to the far southern city of Lankhmar, all of which is detailed in the second story, The Unholy Grail. Which leads to the third story, Ill Met in Lankhmar, which is the one you are probably most familiar with, because it won both the Nebula and Hugo in 1970 and 1971 respectively, and is probably the most anthologized of the stories.
Good job, wizard.
I read it sometime in the early 70s, remembering it when I ran across it in this collection. It's the first meeting of Fafhrd and the Mouser as they both take down the same set of jewel thieves in the city of Lankhmar, admiring each other's capabilities and deciding to join forces.
Certainty of death, small chance of success. What are we waiting for?
They then take on the Thieves' Guild, with dire and rather gruesome results for Ivrian and Vlanna, who are both at home minding their own business when the guild's sorcerer decides to take revenge.
Winnie the Pooh! Winnie the Pooh!
The rest of the stories cover the various exploits of the pair as they traverse sea and desert and time, seeking fortune and adventure, often at the behest of their sponsoring wizards, Ningobble of the Seven Eyes, which stick out of his cloak like octopus tentacles.
Would you love me if I was anything but what I am?
And Shilba of the Eyeless Face, who remains completely cloaked, and both of whom send these two out on some pretty ridiculous tasks, like stealing all the stars from the top of a mountain.
Here's another nice mess you've gotten me into.
The stories get pretty repetitive, pretty quick, probably because you're seeing them all at one time instead of over the several years they appeared in the magazines. My favorite among them is Lean Times in Lankhmar, when Fafhrd finds religion, when Fafhrd finds religion, and the story quickly turns into a Monty Python sketch.
What is your favorite color? Blue.
In all, this is more a trip down memory lane than anything. When you're done with your latest Brian Sanderson, pick this up and see how it all started.